Okay, this is for all you bums that skipped class. How are we going to do lesson 8? Well, remember the equation of a typical line is always of the form y equals mx plus b. Remember, this is your slope and this is your y-intercept, which remember that means that's where your line hits the y-axis. Okay, so when I look at this equation, remember your slope is the number in front of the x. So right here, my number is 1/4. So my slope would be 1/4, and your y-intercept is the number tagged on the end. So in this case, my y-intercept is -2, and that's a point. So you really should write it as 0, -2. So how do you graph this line? You start with a point on the line. It doesn't matter which point you start with, but you only have this one point. So we're going to start there. That's 0, -2. My slope is rise over run. So I'm going to go up 1 and then over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I would love to do that again, but I'm going to run out of room. So instead of going up over 4, I'm going to go down 1 over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to use a straight edge. You can use your name tag or a lovely ruler, and you're going to make a nice straight line. Problem is, I'm holding the phone with one hand, and I can't do this. So I'm going to go ahead and eyeball it, but I want neatness here. So it should look like that. Put little arrows on the end because it keeps going on forever and ever because it's a line. Okay, so then let's do this next one. Remember, your slope is the number in front of the x. So right here, what's that number? Well, it's a -1. And I feel like this is blurry, but it could be I'm old. And your y-intercept is the number tagged on the end, so it's 0, 2. So when you get ready to graph, you're going to start with your y-intercept. Start with your point, which is 0, 2. So go to your y-axis. We're going to go here to 2. Now remember, if this isn't a fraction, you can make it a fraction always by putting it over 1. Okay, so I'm going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Since it's negative, I'm going to go to the left. Remember, it has to go downhill since it's negative. So I'm going to go up 1 over 1. And you have to have at least 3 points. If you want more, that's fine. But notice I'm going down 1 to the right 1. So I've got this nice line. So again, you're going to use your straight edge. In my case, I am not, because I don't have 2 hands to work with. And I'm looking through my phone. So this could be scary, but extend it. Put arrows on it so it should look nice and neat. Okay, now I'm going to skip number 3 just for a second. 3 special, definitely coming back to that one, but I do want to do this one real quick. Notice here my slope is 3/5. My y-intercept is 0, 1. So I'm going to go to the point 0, 1. I'm going to go up 3 over 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's a point on my line. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 3 points. You have to have at least 3 points. Okay, let me say this. There is not just these 3 points. There's infinitely many points on here. They're just kind of nasty looking points or fractions or decimals. These are my nice, pretty points, but there are infinitely many points in here. In fact, there's infinitely many points between these two. There's infinitely many points between those two. Okay, I'm just giving you 1, 2, 3 nice points. Okay, look at this one. What's the number in front of x? Because that's my slope. Well, it would be 1. Remember, your y-intercept is what's tagged on the end. Well, there is nothing tagged on the end. I could write it like this, plus 0. So my y-intercept is 0, 0, which is the origin. So I do get to start here. My slope is 1. I could write that as 1 over 1. So I'm going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. And notice it has positive slope. So it's going to, I notice here I'm going down 1 to the left 1. So I've got lots of points here so I can have something good to aim for. And there we go. Okay, not too shabby, looking through the phone. Now, there is something special about number 3 and number 6. Notice, look real close. What's different about this? There is no x. Okay, so this is a special line. Basically, you're going to go to the y-axis and you're going to find -2. Here's my y-axis. It's going to be -2, and it's a nice horizontal line. Notice it doesn't even ever intersect the x-axis. Okay, it doesn't ever hit there, which makes sense. There are no x's. It's not going to hit the x-axis. The only exception to that would be as if you had the line like y equals 0, and then that would be right there. And that's kind of a weird line. But if you have the line y equals 4, it would be, go to the y-axis, you would find 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'd be a horizontal line right there, okay? So these are really easy if you realize they're special lines. They're horizontal lines. They have 0 slope. And we talked about this more in class, but remember slope is defined as rise over run. Well, realize it's not rising anything, okay? It's rising 0, and it's running, well, if I went from here to here, notice it's running 2 points. Or it could run 1, or it could run 10. But 0 over anything, except for 0, is 0. Okay, your y-intercept, that says where does it hit the y-axis? Well, it's hitting right there at 0, negative 2. That's not a coincidence, okay? So if it's just a boring y, horizontal line. Okay, now look at number 6. Ooh, what's different about this one? Notice there are no y's. It's just an x. So this, go to your x-axis, go find negative 3, 1, 2, 3, and it's going to be a nice vertical line. Okay, so it's going to look just like that. So if it's a nice boring x, no y's, notice it's not hitting the y-axis, it's a vertical line. Now, I'm going to tell you to answer this one here in just a minute. This one is really tricky, so be careful. I'm just going to pick these 2 points. You can pick any 2 points. And remember, slope is defined as rise over run. Well, to get from here to here, notice I went up 2, but I ran 0. Do you remember you can't divide by 0? In fact, if you ask Siri, she gets quite aggravated at you. In fact, if you try to divide by 0, it is undefined. So remember, all vertical lines have undefined slope. This is the only answer I will accept for vertical lines when I ask you the slope. This asks you for the y-intercept. And remember that saying, where does it hit the y-axis? And if you look, it doesn't ever hit the y-axis. It's parallel to the y-axis. So this would be, don't write 0 because you'd be telling me it hits right there, and it doesn't. The y-intercept here is none. The only exception to that is when you get ready to do your homework on 8B. Let me see up here, 8B. When you get ready to do number 3, you're going to go to the x-axis. I know that's a vertical line because there's no y. So I'm going to go to the x-axis, and I'm going to go to 0, and there's my vertical line. It's really hard to see because it's on top. It's basically on top of the y-axis, okay? I know all vertical lines have undefined slope, okay? But when it says, where does it hit the y-intercept? Well, good gosh, it is the y-intercept. So it's hitting all these values. So this answer should be all real numbers right there, all real numbers, because that's where it's hitting. So that one, this one's weird.